This video is to address the total lack of coverage that I've seen on the Pro version of the M3 series processors. Every review I've seen is of course talking about the M3 Max, which is what the reviewers get when Apple sends them out. I upgraded from my M1 MacBook Pro, and I mashed the checkout button so fast I was likely one of the first people to get an order in for the new M3 series processors. I'm Jesse Nolan, and this is Tab Geeks. Funny story, I ended up on a plane for the announcement of the M1 series processors and the redesigned 14-inch MacBook Pro, and purchased those as soon as the announcement came out, as I had been waiting to upgrade my old MacBook Air setup I think I had at the time. Fast forward 2 years, and I was once again sitting on a plane for this Apple event, the Scary Fast event. Although I was not yet in the air, I was sitting on the runway waiting for takeoff. I was willing the event to go faster. Thankfully, it was named Scary Fast, which wasn't just about the processors, but also about the length of the event, and it ended just as the pilots were beginning to get in line to take off and head home. As soon as the event was over, I immediately opened Chrome and madly started refreshing Apple.com for the store to refresh with the new M-series chips. As soon as it went live, I quickly jumped in, made my selection, and checked out. This was all done as the pilot was revving the engines and rolling down the runway for takeoff. I literally got my confirmation of my order after we had already taken off and were banking away from the airport. Now, mind you, there was no Wi-Fi on this short flight, so that was cellular only, and I just barely got it in under the wire. Thankfully, I got the order in so early, and this arrived on launch day so that I can make this video for all of you and hope to dispel some of the questions around the M3 Pro series processors. Of course, no review video would be complete with a little unboxing, so here's some footage of me taking it out of the box. We have a beautiful new color this year, Space Black, and as always, the box comes as it usually does with a wonderful unboxing experience. Clean and minimalistic. I really wish they would color match the power brick, but that hasn't happened yet. I suppose I should be grateful that they still give a power brick in the first place. On the back, we of course have the wonderful MacBook Pro stamp on the bottom. Now, I've heard a lot of you complaining about the fingerprints, and yes, I can confirm it does minimize the fingerprints, but I felt the MacBook Pro M1 version did that as well. One finger lift, very nice. Ta-da! In the last few days, I've watched many review videos and read many articles, all basically saying the same thing. The M3 Max processors are great, but it's not a big upgrade on the Pro series over the M2, you shouldn't bother. Some of them suggested you even wait for the M4 or the M5 series processors, which are now years out. I wanted to share why I upgraded immediately. Now, not every person's use case is going to be the same, not every company's use case is going to be the same, and so many of you who are watching this video have absolutely no reason to upgrade to the max level of these processors. I am a major multitasker. My day-to-day setup is a 49-inch Samsung Odyssey G9 ultra-wide with a 27-inch Dell 2K monitor next to it. I run those monitors and the rest of my peripherals through a CalDigit TS4 dock, and that has been working great since I bought it for the M1 series, and it's continuing to work well on the M3 series. I generally run 3 to 4 Chrome windows depending on what I'm doing, and between those, usually from 60 to 100 tabs. I also have Google Chat, Slack, Spotify, WhatsApp, Discord, ClickUp, to consult my list here, Toggle for time tracking, and sometimes some other apps depending on what I need to do. However, on the M1 Pro, when I wanted to record an episode using Riverside with my remote guests, or if I want to edit said episode, I always needed to close down a couple of the more major memory hog tabs in Google Chrome, such as Canva. I would also close down some of the less critical apps that I use on a day-to-day basis, such as Slack and Discord, which are not necessarily really needed during a recording or editing session. Now, this is the reason that I upgraded. I want to be able to use my machine in a day-to-day use without having to wait for it to catch up, without it pinwheeling, without it getting stuck. I don't think that's unreasonable. Now, how quickly we get used to something that is blazing fast and new, so in 2 years, refer back to this video, and I'll let you know if I am now feeling that the M3 Pro is slow. But the M1 Pro was also only 16 gig, and that's a major difference that I did with this model is I upgraded to 36 gig of RAM. That is a lot of RAM headroom. Now, overall, the M1 Pros are fantastic, and if you upgraded the RAM on yours, you may be able to get another year or two even out of them. That was not my experience. I had the upgraded processor to the 10 core, but still only 16 gig of RAM. And honestly, these days, 16 gig of RAM for a power user simply isn't cutting it. I can't believe that they still put 8 gig of RAM on the base model of the MacBook Pro 14 with the M3 baseline processor. I often work on large upgrades for clients, whether it's camera upgrades and configuration, network upgrades and configuration, design tools, planning, etc. I usually have several tabs open pertaining to the project that I'm working on, and a lot of these tabs end up taking up a lot of RAM. Now, swap is great, but if you're using all the rest of the resources of the computer, swap isn't going to help you very much, and this is where having more RAM becomes critical. On the editing side, I did a normal test of an edit that I would do for a regular episode. Now, as much as I wish that it just rendered in seconds and it was done, that simply isn't the reality. That being said, I did get 30% better rendering time on the M3 Pro than I do on my M1 Pro. Let's talk cold hard numbers for a minute. A lot of people are interested in the Geekbench numbers and the speedometer tests to see what this machine can really do under a standard processing test. And I will put those results up on the screen here. Now, since to many people, those numbers mean, well, basically nothing, except for looking like really large, confusing numbers, let me tell you my real-world experience using this on a day-to-day basis. The M3 Pro has taken everything I've thrown at it, including all of the aforementioned applications, opened all at the same time, including under a grueling editing and then rendering workload. It hardly even broke a sweat. I often have to have Activity Monitor open when I'm working to make sure that I don't spike and put too much pressure on the RAM, otherwise my machine slows down. On the M3, this was simply not the case. Not only was it in the green the whole time, it barely even registered. And for the fans, I had to turn off my music and put my ear up to the machine just to hear the fans were running, and that was only during editing. The rest of the time, as soon as editing was done, they spun back down and I couldn't hear them at all. Now, the M3 Pros, are they expensive for an SMB? Absolutely. Is it as insanely expensive as the M3 Max? No, not at all. Should you buy it? Well, if you agree with my sentiments above and can stomach spending $2,500 on a computer, plus tax, absolutely. So far, this machine has handled everything I've thrown at it and has hardly even broken a sweat. Dare I say, it may even be overpowered for my needs, given the 36 gig, but that's the step up that Apple did here. Generally, Apple tries to get you to upgrade in $200 increments. Each thing that you want to add to your configuration is only $200 more. Only $200 more, and then again only $200 more, and before you know it, you're speccing a $4,000 machine. With this machine, it's simply not the case. I recommend upgrading the processor one step and upgrading the RAM one step, as you can see that I've done on the screen here, and that is going to be enough power for your everyday use going forward for at least the next 2 to 3 years, depending on how you use it. The new space black color doesn't hurt either.